What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to do a how to make goose bratwurst. I'm going to show you how I do stuff, and then you guys can try that, or if it kind of gives you some tips and you can sort of do your own variation. That's the fun part of doing stuff yourself. If you guys are from Bob's channel, thanks for stopping in and checking me out. I really appreciate it. If you guys are brand new to the channel, if you guys are brand new to me, I hope you guys enjoy what I'm doing here. So let's get into it. Today we are going to make Cajun goose brats. And this thing I'm waving around here, this is the knife I like to use. This knife, it's made by Victor Knox. I'll link them in the description. You guys can go check them out. They're pretty cheap. They're only about 25, 30 bucks, something like that. But they're good and sharp, they're sturdy, and you can use them for a lot more than just cutting up goose. The first thing I do when I'm making brats or something like that with goose is I make sure that there's no shot left in it, because if you run shot through your grinder, you can mess stuff up in a hurry. You can break blades, you can clog plates. It's not good, and plus if one gets through, it's not a whole lot of fun to chew on. So first thing I do is I take the goose and I just slice it. It takes a little while to do. If you see a wound channel, make sure there's no feathers, no shot, and you just keep on slicing through and make sure that there is nothing in there. I missed a couple of feathers there. Want to make sure you get all that stuff out. Unless you like eating feathers, but that's your deal, I guess, not mine. A sharp knife always helps a lot. Another plus side about cutting it into little strips like this is if you have a smaller grinder than I do, mine will eat a whole chicken, literally. I've tried it. You can put these smaller strips into the smaller grinders and they'll feed. Make sure that you size your meat to the size of your grinder. So if you have a small one, I mean, you don't want to put a huge chunk in there. These will feed through a whole lot easier, and it'll be a lot easier on your equipment as well. Yep. See right there. Found one. You do not want to let those little guys get into your grinder. They will mess up. They can mess stuff up. There's a few things we'll do to try and make so that doesn't happen, and I'll show you what we do there as well. One really important thing about making sausage or jerky, basically when you're messing with meat and you want a consistent product, is make sure you have a scale. Keep track of your recipes, and that way you can make sure that you get what you want out of your product. That way you know exactly what you're doing. All right, we got 9 pounds of goose to start out with. What I like to do when I'm making brats with goose, since goose is so lean, I like my brats to be a little bit on the juicier side. So I add pork fat. Now pork fat you can probably pick up at most of your major supermarkets, but I would recommend you do is stop at a smaller local butcher shop, get some from them. Most time it won't cost you much, if anything, anywhere from 50 cents to $2 a pound. Luckily here at the shop, I have not an unlimited supply, but I have a little bit more access to it than some people. But if you don't have access to pork fat, you can also use some of the fattier cuts of pork as well. Those will work too. Now I've got some pork fat here, and I've got it in some bigger chunks. And so what you want to do is you want to cut it into some smaller one. I'm cutting it about into 1-inch pieces here, give or take, because I want it to be able to mix in really well with the product. What I do when I'm making goose brats is I add 20% fat. That's worked really well for me. Some people like them a little fattier, some people like them a little leaner. I just don't want them to dry out, and that happens really easy with goose. So I use 20% and then cut it into smaller pieces so it mixes in really well. I'm just gonna round it up to 10 pounds, even though it's 9. I'm gonna put in 2 pounds of pork for the goose. All right, so I've got 2 pounds. One thing I forgot to mention is make sure your product is cold. You want it as cold as you can. This goose right here is actually partially frozen. I pulled it out, put it in the fridge, and let it thaw down in there. And when it's still kind of crispy, that's the best time. The colder you can keep your product, the better your product's gonna turn out. All right. I have a really big grinder. So this is going to be a little bit out of proportion probably for what you guys are doing, but I'll show you how I do it. You should be able to adapt pretty easy to what you guys are trying to do. So I got my meat here. I'm going to dump it into my grinder mixer here. My grinder grinds and mixes at the same time. Most of them, you just put it in the top, it goes through the auger, grinds out. This one, I have the opportunity to mix everything at the same time. So since it's a small batch, this machine actually holds about 250 pounds. So my 11 pounds down there doesn't look real big. We'll grind it out and show you what that looks like. When I do brats and stuff like that, even just ground meat, I use 2 different sizes of plate, or die, or whatever you want to call it. The first one I go through is a coarse ground. This one is actually a 3/8 plate. And then the second one I run through, I'll show you that one here in a little bit for my final grind. One thing that I've learned with my grinder anyway, that if you just put the meat in and you turn it on and let the grinder start spinning, it tends to burn up the plate a little bit because it creates so much friction because there's nothing there. So what I do is I put a little bit of oil on my knife and my plate before I get going. That way I don't get it burned up, but I'll start and stop it just to sort of work the meat in, and then I'll let it start grinding once I see it's far enough along. That way I don't mess up my machine and it creates a better product because it's not as hot. For geese, this is my second plate. It's also my sausage plate, which I would use anyway, even if it was pork. This is a 9/16. The reason I use a bigger one, no matter what I'm doing with geese, is the pellets can actually go through this. I shoot 2s, they'll go through that, and so it won't get stuck in there, and that's why I use that size plate. And it makes a better grind too. Time to run through the second time. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to mix our seasoning, which for this one I'm going to use a pre-packed seasoning because I can't show you guys my recipe for my other stuff. This one is a very good one. I'll see if I can find it and I'll put a link to it down in the description. But the thing that really makes a big difference with your seasoning is a scale. So if you can, get one of these little scales. I'll find one, I'll link it, but they are awesome. They make everything really easy to keep consistent. You can weigh out to almost stupid precise. It's really annoying. But I use it when I mix all my seasonings, whether I'm making jerky or sausage or summer sausage, but they're really handy to have. So Goose is pretty wet to start out with, so I only use a little bit of water, but I'll put a little bit of water in the meat to help absorb the seasoning a little bit and make it a little bit easier to mix in. Then I'll take my seasoning here and sprinkle it over pretty good. And then the mixing part. And you want to mix it really well. Make sure that the seasoning gets all the way through it. Don't undermix it, but if you overmix it, it'll get really warm and kind of nasty and just really hard to work with. I didn't show you guys, but a lot of times when I grind, I put some ice in there and then I don't use any water. That way it keeps it extra cold and helps me maintain a better product. Just keep working around, make sure that you get it all mixed up real nice. Now that I got it all mixed up, time to stuff it. I have the luxury of using a hydraulic stuffer. Most of you guys probably just have a hand crank one. That will work fine. It's probably going to be a 2-man job to get it done the way you want. You can do it with one, but 2 definitely makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to take our product here. When I put meat in the stuffer, I like to pack it in real good. If you don't, you'll leave air pockets and then it'll have a big hole in your bratwurst, and that's not a whole lot of fun. Alright, for brats, I use a natural hog casing. You can use a collagen casing if you want, but I just really like the natural hog casings. If you're using a natural hog casing, soak them first. There should be directions with them when you get them, but what I do is I put them in, I got these little buckets sitting all over the place. I put them in there, and I rinse them out like 2 or 3 times, get all the salt, put them in another little warm batch of water, and then I'll pull one out, I'll open up the end, and I'll put just some water in the casing to help lubricate it. That way it's easier to get on and off the horn. Then I'll just strip it on over the horn, which can take a little bit. Mine, I can just push the button or this lever down here with my knee, and the product comes out. Hand crank, the product comes out through the horn into the casing. A little bit cheating compared to the hand crank one, it's a whole lot easier. But you want to keep just a little bit of tension on the casing. It takes a little bit of getting used to, just so it doesn't come flying off, because you might get these really skinny ones versus a nice big fat one or a medium one. Once the product's all stuffed, the way you spin brats, or at least the way I spin brats, there's a lot of different ways to do it. What I'll do is I'll take my product here in the casing, and I'll pinch it off at about where I think a good bun length brat would be. I'll take it, I'll pinch it, I'll do it again, and then I'll spin it. And spin it. Pretty simple to do. You can leave it in a rope also, and just curl them up, make a nice little rope sausage, but I'm doing brats today, so we're doing that way. If you guys are liking this video though, give me a thumbs up. I'm hoping to help you guys out. Really appreciate a thumbs up if you liked it, if it helped you. A subscription would be awesome, and stay tuned. We're gonna do a bunch more of these how-to videos. We're gonna have a really big one there at the end. Maybe we'll grill him up here in a minute. Now, to cut brats, grab a knife. You can use the scissors. You don't have to do them this fast. You can cut them one at a time. This is just the way I'm used to doing it. All right, there's a bunch of goose brats. It's a good way to use up a bunch of that goose meat before the season kicks in. There we go. I just want one, so I'm just putting one on the grill. But anyway, look kind of nice. Well, it's been a fun one. You guys are gonna have to just try them yourselves. If you want to watch someone eat one, do it. You can do it yourself. It's okay. Thanks so much, guys, for hanging out, watching this how-to. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys had a good time. Till the next one, see ya.